You know what he was saying? Abraham, I so love the world that with you I'm going to make a covenant that does not depend on you or anybody else. How successful you are, how much you fail, how many mistakes you make, it's not going to depend on your efforts or your performance at all. You just go over here and take a nap, Abraham. Because I'm going to swear this covenant by myself. And as God passed between the pieces of the animals by himself, what he was literally saying to the world was, if I by myself do not complete, fulfill, and finish this covenant to the world, let happen to me what happened to these animals. Therefore, through Abraham, we begin what we call the covenant line. I'm going to show you in a minute where we're going. You're going to see, hopefully you're going to have one of those, what was that movie that came out here a few years ago? With Bruce Willis, The Sixth Sense. How many of you saw the movie The Sixth Sense? Was that not some movie? There was another movie starring Nicole Kidman called The Others. How many of you saw that movie? Now the common denominator in those two movies was, you're going along and you're thinking, what in the Sam Hill is going on in this movie? I don't understand what's going on. And all of a sudden, there's one point where you say, oh! Did you have that eureka moment in the movies? Well, what's going to happen is we see where this goes in a minute. Hopefully you're going to have that eureka moment. Now, let's look at it again. Unconditional promise started Genesis 3:15, and it, of course, ran through Abraham. The unilateral covenant that God made with the world, not through Abraham. He put Abraham to sleep. Okay? This covenant line began. So we had two things running side by side. God so loved the world, he made an unconditional promise and a unilateral covenant. By the way, aren't you glad that God's love for you and his grace and mercy extended to you and your promise of making it to heaven is not dependent on your performance? Can you say amen to that? Amen. It's contingent upon unconditional promise, unilateral covenant, and amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved an old wretch like me. And you, by the way. You know who wrote that song, by the way? Amazing Grace? Well, John Newton wrote it. John Newton was one more rowdy fellow. He was a pistol. He was, yeah. I mean, he was mean. But he had a mama. As she would wash clothes, she'd pray for him. And her tears would run down her cheeks and mingle with the suds, and she prayed for Johnny out on the open seas. Well, one day, little Johnny came to know Jesus Christ. And he's the one who wrote that song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch. That's pretty strong language. A wretch like me. His praying mama was a big part of that, by the way. There's nothing more powerful in this world than the prayers of a godly mother. Amen. Amen. Now, here we are, the year 2004, and we look at all this stuff and we say, how can I understand that? Aren't you glad that we don't make all these blood covenants today? Well, that's true to one degree, but not in another. We make covenants just about every day. I'll walk up to somebody and I say, Chip, how you doing, man? Now, you know what that goes back to? Years and years ago, when two people would make a covenant and they would cut their hands, put their hands together. It's a blood covenant. Now, we shake hands today, and I thank God we don't cut our hands. But that's the vestige of a blood covenant. Someone stands in a court of law today and says, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. You know what that goes back to? Years ago when someone would cut, I don't know where they cut their wrist or their hand or whatever, and they would let the blood run down their arm and they would hold up their hand and say, you see this? I swear by my blood that you can trust me. I'm telling you the truth. Now in a court of law today, we don't do the bloodletting, thank God. But when we hold our hand up, it's a vestige of a blood covenant. So whether you know it or not, we still make blood covenants today when we shake hands and we hold up our hand. We're basically saying, you can trust my word, you can trust me, and I swear by my blood.
Is that why you need a blood test when you don't get married? Your marriage vows are a covenant between you and the guy you're married.
I doubt it, Margie, but By the way, you don't have to do that anymore.
You don't?
No, when you go get a marriage license today, you do not have to do it. Everything's becoming much, much easier. Now, notice something. If this is unconditional and this is unilateral, basically God was saying nothing, no one, no thing, no power, no devil, nothing will stop the development and the finishing of my covenant, my plan. Nothing. I promise and swear by myself that I so love the world that nothing will stop the completion